Hey everyone, today is August 28th, 2025. We're just going to go ahead and cover the trades that I took today on Thursday. So right off the gate here in the morning, I tried to take AMD basically on this 2 up break on the day. Um, this was pretty fast in the morning. I thought perhaps you had a possible 212 you see here on the fiver. But again, I had to manage this position very tight when it started. When I had this 5 minute candle that went against me, as well as on the day that turned the day from green to red, pretty much was out. So this one had to manage very tightly. This one was out on the position. Took a small loss. That's okay. Second position I got kicked out of was my swing in Amazon. Unfortunately, this one went right after I got out. But like I said, gotta manage very tightly on this. We'll take a look at why, right? So first 5 minute candle is up. I was very excited about that. Second minute candle's red. It's fine. This one's red. But when this red candle here took out my low of the candle and also changed or flipped the daily continuity from green to red, I pretty much was out. Question is that something I want to get back into? Certainly it was pretty good of a setup on the 312 here. Um, I was watching one other trade that I took, which I would have considered an A plus setup on the day. The reason why I didn't take this trade was because at the time this was a 312, yes, but it was also 2 up continuation on the day, still inside week. And certainly, for example, yesterday, right, this same situation happened, 312, right, also 2 up. Week was still inside. You don't know if this is really going to go and actually push, or if it's just going to be a situation like today where it goes. So we want to take basically A plus setups. We want to take rev strats, inside day breaks, hammers, shooters, actionable signals, kickers even, um, or perhaps even like a 1-2-2 rev strats. So again, rev strats help us get to that point. Now, if Amazon was already 2 up 1-2-2 rev strat on the week, then it would be something that's great. Unfortunately, it decided to finally go 2 up on the week and trigger the rev strat on a Thursday, with barely any time left on the week. But you know, good for Amazon. Perhaps tomorrow can make that target. Um, yeah, we're gonna talk about the trade of the day here. This is an A plus setup that I took. Um, so here we go. Why is it an A plus setup, right? So the time here you can see the week was still. You have an actionable signal, 2 up in force. This is a hammer, right? Hammer, 2 up in force. That's gonna be an actionable signal, right? Okay, so once that's in force, you have higher time frames that are green, right? Core is also deeply green in force, so those are all things you're looking at, right? And on the day, is it 2 up continuation? No, it's 2-1-2 rev strat up, right? So at some point, right, maybe you have like me a little edit here, or what do you call it, an alert set up here. So when it goes 2 up on the day, I was pretty excited, right? I was basically looking to get in on any kind of perhaps rev strat possibility. So as you're kind of looking through it, you're looking at maybe the 15er. The 15er had perhaps take a look here. On the on the 15er, you had a 2 in double inside and then a break with this 2 up. So that was kind of interesting to note here. Had a small size at this point, and basically once I saw the bigger setup on the 30 right here, 3-1-2 up, right? And when this triggered on the next flip of the hour, we'll take a look here. Right, this right here is the flip of the first candle on the hour, right? The flips are always important, whether we're in the position or not in the position yet. This was great because why? This is a wickless 5 minute candle, and it triggers both of those entries previous entries that I had, that 15 minute break, as well as the 30 minute 3-1-2 break that occurred here, right? Um, I was pretty much looking at the volume at this point as well. You can note that the volume at this point in time was huge, absolutely huge compared to what we were seeing previously, right? You had a little initial buy up, consolidation, maybe a little bit of sell off, right? And then once this triggered, boom, you had such a massive amount of volume. I just pretty much got in right away. Didn't wait didn't necessarily wait for the fiver to close, because at that point there was so much volume. I was thinking to myself, when you have a breakout with that much volume, that's something you want to see. Um, and so at that point, we always want to talk about what are our exits, right? What is our level of defense, right? So at that point, this is the hour right here. I'm going to note that with a red line, right? That's the hour. We don't want the continuity as well as the low of that candle to be taken out with any kind of fiber. Just like kind of when we used AMD and Amazon as an example, right? We don't want the daily continuity to flip. In this case, daily continuity is out here. We don't want to use that as a level of defense because it's so far. We're going to take a huge loss if it gets all the way down there, right? Entries are out here. This is a good area that we can put our stop because it's very close. Very nice risk to reward, right? Where's our next target on the day, right? What is the magnitude on this 212? It's all the way up here, $78.70, right? And our entry's right here. That's massive risk to reward, right? Our risk is all the way down here on this fiver, right? Entry, exit, take profit, right? I mean, you can use this tool right here, this long position tool right here, right? If you want to see what the perhaps, I'll try to put it as close as I can here, right? And then the stop is like right around here. That's a risk reward of like, that can't be right, 226 risk reward. Um, anyways, that's what we look for. So, this goes, right? Am I worried at this point? This is my hour, right? I might take also a look at at this point, the 7 o'clock. Because some people use a different hour, but this would be considered like your 30-minute versus the current hour, right? It never, it never comes even close to my area of my support, right? I also have VWAP defending, so I've got like multiple lines of defense here. Moving average here, as well as VWAP, never tested. This fiver, I'm not worried. It doesn't change the hour. It doesn't even come close. I'm good, right? And as the trade progresses and we look at the time, right? Okay, 8 o'clock is the next here. I'm going to move my stop here, right? Worst case, I don't want it to basically turn the 30 or this current hour I'm in red. If it turns the 30, I have something maybe to think about. If it gets close to actually turning my hour, I mean, I don't want to give all that profit up, right? So this is why I'm kind of noting, okay, where's the current 30? Where's the current hour? It has to flip the 30 to get to my hour. Am I necessarily going to wait for it to go from my 30 to my hour? That's a personal question, right? If I'm already up a certain percentage, right, 30% or so, 50%, I don't want to necessarily give up all those gains and let myself go from a green trade to a red trade. But if I'm only up 5%, 10%, I'm okay with giving my trade a bit of room. Um, because sometimes if you set your stop, as soon as you take the position here, you're just going to get wicked out super quick, right? All right. So, trade's progressing. We hit our target at 78.70, right? This is an obvious time you have to take some off, right? Can't stress enough to take money at profit, right? Right here, right? Premiums are juiced. You're selling into strength, so take off, 20%, half your position, whatever, right? So I took some off there. We're good to go. I drew this little kind of trend line here. That's kind of as my, I like to use that personally. It's not strat related, but it's also support that I use as the trade is progressing, right? What are these targets here, right? I'm using basically the 30-minute pivot to identify perhaps targets that I can hit as I'm on my way up, because where's the next target on the day, right? Here, the next target on the day here is all the way up here. Do I really believe price can hit this and not TTO at all before it gets up there? I mean, certainly possible, but I mean, likely, probably not, right? So I kind of want to identify targets between here and there and just look for perhaps possible reversals or possible, short-term corrections that I can sit through. So, okay, back to the trade. So at this point, I've got my trend line drawn. It hits my next target, right? I'm basically at this point, do I want to take some off? Do I want to keep some in? Uh, Depending on how much percentage up you are in your trade, you can consider taking like another 20%, 30% off. So I take another 20% off here, right? Logical target. I got my next target up here, 80.28, right? Keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. And when it breaks my trend line, I'm thinking to myself, uh-oh, right? So here, 9 o'clock, I've identified that 30-minute low. And then, at this point in time, I believe I had the 8 o'clock, 8:30 was around here. So I'm always keeping track of where the hour is, right? So here it was like okay, right? And so 9:30 hits. This is the first candle at 9:30. Okay. And this is interesting too, right? Because our previous 30-minute and our current hour is stuck very stacked together. If I get any kind of signal of weakness that goes against me, I kind of want to be out of this trade, right? So this fiver here turns both my previous 30 and my current hour red at this point, and it goes below my previous target of the day, right? I'm pretty much at this point out on the full position, right? I don't want to let this go all the way back down, to daily continuity, to my entry level. So at this point, took my profits out on the position, you know, and that's the trade. Whether it's going to set up again and allow me to get back into the trade is an interesting question, right? So perhaps this 30 might give me an opportunity, 122 back up. We'll see, right? But that's the trade that I took so far today. Whether I get back into it, maybe not. Something to consider as well is that it's already hit the target of the day, so you have a bit of you know exhaustion risk. And that's pretty much a trade for OKLO. One other trade that I was swinging, if you noticed from yesterday, was Apple, right? In terms of managing Apple, okay, right? We want to treat that first fiver at the open as something that we use to manage the trade. So sorry here. Where is Monday? Sorry, Thursday. Thursday's right here. Okay, here we go. So this is the first fiver of the day, right? I'm a patient person. I let it open because I know anything can happen in that first fiver, right? First fiver opens, it's pretty damn wide. It goes pretty much all the way down here, but I'm patient. My rule is that I let the first fiver open on me. So there it is, right? Okay, do we have any fiver that ever goes below that current fiver? No, price just kind of trades within there, diddle dallies for a while, right? Doesn't do too much, right? And just continues kind of at some point going up. If we look on the higher time frames, right? I believe this candle was a 212, right? So 212 up. I'm still going to be in the trade. 212 up as well. If I wanted to, I could have added the position here, but I figured, okay, this is a 2 up, right? The week is still inside. Is this an A plus setup? Probably not. If this was 2 up already in force, if this was maybe an inside bar break, yeah, that's an A plus setup. But this is at best kind of like a, maybe a B at best. So I don't necessarily want to add to the position. If you have a bigger portfolio and you want to just take trades, maybe, but I'm kind of gotten to a point where I only want to take A plus setups, right? So you have a possibility to add here if you wanted to get it on Apple, maybe not. How am I managing the position, right? So um, as I've kind of said previously, right, maybe you want to look at the trend lines here, like so. Just give yourself some kind of like support. And, you notice that the moving averages are doing strong, but throughout the day, right, just like with OKLO, we're kind of managing the risk using these red trend lines to keep kind of track of where the current hour and where the current 30-minute candle is. Okay, so there we go. You also know, I can't stress enough, where are the targets, right? Target from here to there is pretty wide, but looks like it hit the first target on the day already. This purple line is the weekly trigger. I'm gonna take some off once we hit there, as well as currently where we're at now. Just take a look here. So this is going to be maybe managing in real time. We'll take a look, right? And I'm comfortable walking through the trade with you guys, so don't worry, I'm not rushed. Okay, so I'm going to set this to 7 o'clock here. So this is the first 7 o'clock candle. It kind of wicks the bottom, but never goes below there. So I'm good there, right? Let's just get rid of that one for now. Okay, boom. Okay, trade progresses here. We get to 7:30 right here. This is the 7:30 candle. This is our lines. Our lines of defense are constantly moving up, right? Because I want to know, is the hour red? Is the 30 red? Are they staying green? Is the price staying above? Right? Okay. So here, right, we keep going, we keep going. I'm going to look for that 8 o'clock candle here. Okay, 8 o'clock candle hits here. All right. And so this is the previous 30. This is the 8 o'clock candle. All right. And then if you were in off of a 30, this would have been your trigger point, right? So We talked about how we have different lines of defense, right? I'm keeping track with the 30. Just because the 30 goes against me, um, or at least that 30 goes against me, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to turn my hour, right? And you also have daily continuity as well. So here, this is a bit tricky, right? If you have a really, really tight stop, this might have been your exit right here. But I was a bit patient because I saw I had VWAP and it hadn't turned my hour yet. And I wanted to basically see how fast this move was going to be. This move came down, it wicked the daily, but it didn't close below. It wicked VWAP, it didn't close below. It's kind of like what you might consider a liquidity grab, right? People are just, maybe stops are getting taken out, so forth. But you could also consider it an ad, right? When price goes below your trigger and goes above your trigger again, that might be an ad. So here I'm just patient. I'm waiting. I want kind of that additional confirmation where price closes below kind of where my lines of defense are, rather than just kind of like punching it and getting kicked out because people are strong and they're buying it back up. Um, so in that regard, I'm still in the trade. So as it keeps continue going up, I'm still actively just monitoring the trade. All right. So here's the 8:30 candle, right? And that was my current 8, right? Lines of defense are really close together. I like it when they're close together because it makes it pretty obvious that if you get any kind of signal against you, it's an out, or in order to manage. When they're very spread apart, like they previously were, right? Like all the way down here, then you kind of have to make those judgment calls. And that's kind of where these like other signals that I have, like the 50 MA, the VWAP, the daily continuity, it kind of helps to have those things in between, because sometimes if your line of defense is here and here, you don't necessarily have much room to get from place to place. Same with your targets, right? If your target from one day to the next is super wide, you kind of want different levels in between to give you a bit of like room. Okay, so here we go. Next flip, 9 o'clock, right? Still good. Never really, price never really kind of sorry, never really goes below any of those areas. So it's like playing a little hopscotch here. Okay, 9:30, right? That's a new hour. No resistance. Okay, and 10 o'clock here, right? So this is kind of like where we're at here. Price is about to hit the weekly trigger. I'm planning to just watch the price here, perhaps take some off on my position. Okay, so again, I'm still good on the position. I don't necessarily have to be out. These targets are very close together. So we're still good. Volume is still increasing. Kind of want to see a lot. If we do break out of here, I want to see volume really just pop. Um, and then I have another pivot indicator here to just show me where we're at here. Okay. So 10:30 flip's about to occur, right? I want to see how the first 5-minute candle of the next hour opens. If it opens, you know, again, I'm going to be very patient. So no matter how that candle opens, unless it's like a wickless and just starts really taking stuff out, like a simultaneous break, then obviously I'll just be looking at the market. For now, I'm just kind of managing it as we go. Don't want to make the video too long, but that's kind of where I'm at. As you see, I've got my lines of defense written out. When the 10:30 candle comes out, I'm going to move my bottom line over there. It kind of just, use that as some kind of indicator of like, hey, if price goes down there, I kind of have to think, do I have any other confluences, any other signals I can use to kind of like manage the position? Because again, the worst case scenario is price goes from here and round trips you all the way down here, right? You have so many indicators and pivots to kind of tell you, hey, if it's going to go below me, you better be careful, right? So in that regard, that's kind of how I'm managing the positions as the day goes on. I want to be looking at, for example, the hour and the 60. Like some people can keep that in their heads. I like to just have those lines drawn out, so you can kind of tell. And guys can also tell, like, hey, I have these green lines here, right? What does price do every time it hits that? You get these kind of corrections that occur, right? If you don't have those lines drawn out, you're just going to see price just go against you at random times, and you're going to feel like, oh shoot, what's happening? Every single drawdown is going to be like, oh no, and you're going to get kicked out of your position. Um, so, all right, guys, that was good market recap for today. If you guys want, you can leave comments in the videos. Any suggestions? Maybe I'm thinking about perhaps dividing each video into separate trades. as well. Maybe I might do like a pre-market, post-market video as well. Just kind of depends on how popular it is. But for now, I'm really content with just doing journaling my trades. I'm finding that I do better when I take less trades, right? I can go through these trades, and the hard part is that some of these trades really go, but the problem is in my mind, I'm looking at them, they're like not A plus, and that's the thing, right? Even if it's not A plus, and it's like maybe a C setup or a B setup, and it goes your way, but you don't necessarily like, you know, think about all these things. They kind of build bad habits, right? You start taking C trades, B trades, when you should still just be taking the A plus trades. And that's kind of my thought process today, where like I could have gotten back into Amazon. I could have maybe added on Apple, right? But I saw OKLO and I was like, OKLO, this is a setup that's already in force on the week. Got time frame with me as well. Got rev strat on the day, rev strat on the 30 or the 60, right? That's the trade I want to be in. I'd rather put the full amount of my, put a higher position size into an A plus setup rather than put split it up and put like some here into a C, some here into a B, and some into an A plus, right? Right? Not why are we just diluting a good thing, right? We want to just stay in the best setups. We don't want to dilute it by taking some bad trades and some good trades and having a mad day. We want to just stay with the A plus setup and have a great day. So happy trading, guys. Thank you.